Emi Matsushita. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with the creative community that follows here. Um, Let me give a brief introduction for you so people get a feeling for who you are and some of the things you've done. You have a broad and deep expertise in dance and movement. You hold a BS in biology from Purdue University and an MFA in dance science from Trinity Lehman Conservatoire in London, reflecting your unique blend of scientific and artistic education. International performance and creative director. You've performed and creative directed work across the UK and Japan and the US, collaborating with groups like Urban Interface Dance in UK, Drop Squad and Splinter Dance Company in Seattle, Open Your Mind in London, and the Bridges Collaboration Festival in Dallas. You're artist, entrepreneur, and coach. As an embodied entrepreneur coach, you lead workshops, and one of those examples is how to make money as a dancer. And you mentor creative professionals to build sustainable careers in the arts, serving as the current chair of Art Boost Dallas, and you've collaborated with Business Council for the Arts, SMU, Dallas Morning News, and Kira to organize these. You're a seasoned educator across prestigious institutions. You currently teach at UNT and Dallas College and have facilitated workshops at Booker T. Washington, School of Arts, Collin College, University of Houston, Texas Women's, and at the Society of Arts Entrepreneurship Conference, and in local organizations such as Art Mission Oak Cliff, and you build community workshops for audiences from Creative Mornings Dallas to Arts Mission Oak Cliff. With over 25 years of global dance-based creative leadership, and as an experienced dancer yourself, a creative director, entrepreneur, you've founded inclusive collectives like Drop Squad and are developing arts entrepreneurship programs in higher education within the arts communities. And one of those is due to launch, which is your first course at UNT in the fall of 2026. Amazing.
Yay.
Amazing.
That was a lot. Thank you for
Yeah,
that.
that is a lot, but
Yeah.
you've accomplished a lot.
Yeah. But also in a very like non-traditional way, which I think is very similar.
Artsy.
Yeah, it's very artsy. Every artist has a weird non-linear path. And I think that's a narrative that needs to be pushed more, that there's no like set pathway. And
For
that's
sure.
okay.
Yeah. So I don't really have a whole lot of structure to this other than it being conversational.
Yeah.
And I only have one structured question, and it's always my first. And
Yeah.
that is, where were you born and what was life like as a kid for Emmy?
Yeah. Starting from the roots. Yeah, I was born in Japan, in a small town outside of Nagoya is like the third biggest city in Japan, but I was just born outside. And my mom, I'm mixed race, so my mom has Irish Hungarian roots. She ended up in Japan because she was teaching English in the country. She originally moved over with her boyfriend to do that whole thing in the in the 80s, 70s, 70s. And she ended up meeting my dad. It was one of her students, or he was one of her students. They ended up getting married. But yeah, I was born to my Japanese father and my white mom, as a mixed race in Japan. And at the time, it was very much a very, what is it? Mono, mono. homogenous culture, like ethnocentric
Okay.
vibes, not the Japan that we know today, which is very open because of economic reasons, really. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a totally different climate back then. So I was, made to feel different immediately, um, for better for worse. And so once the kids that I went to school with knew that I had a white mom, they were like, "Oh, gaijin, gaijin," which is like a word that's not not super mean, but not nice.
Yeah.
So I had that early days of trying to figure out like how I fit in, you know, um, socially, like in the greater community. And then at home, my life was a little chaotic. Yeah, my parents had a really tumultuous relationship. I think looking back now that I'm older and wiser and I've done my own research and process of healing,
Yeah.
I think my mom had a lot of trauma that she never dealt with, and same with my dad. And I think
Okay.
two people come together and are kind of dysfunctional, separately. They're not good together as well. And so, yeah, it was a lot of arguing, a lot of verbal abuse, physical abuse.
Mm.
So, yeah, it didn't feel very safe and secure. Um, and that extended when we eventually moved to America as well. We moved originally to New York, so a little upstate of the city. And that, yeah, same chaos, conflict
Yeah.
continued. But then I was in a new place. And also, even landing in America, I was like, oh, I'm different. People were like, oh, you're Chinese. Say something in Chinese, Emmy. And I'm like, no, I don't understand what you're asking me. And I
Yeah.
just remember, um, this is like an early like culture shock thing. I remember being on the bus and the kids on the bus were talking about the football teams. They were like, "Oh, the New York Giants are playing this and that." And I was literally thinking that there were like giant people playing a sports game or something. I didn't know it was a mascot. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then I also remember pledging allegiance to the flag. And I thought that was so odd, that we had that ritual every morning. And I didn't know half the words I was saying as
Right.
well.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was just like interesting to like navigate identity in that way and being like
Sure.
forced to show up a certain way as well. Yeah, all the while, my home life was very chaotic. So it felt like there was a lot of, or I guess, necessity for me to feel grounded and safe was just to like create my own sense of security and safety based
Yeah.
on what I thought I needed to do to earn that. So my role in my family was to just be quiet, be good. And I think a lot of girls do that too. They just like, put others first. um, yeah, so I was quiet. I minimized myself as much as possible, thinking also that if I, added to the chaos, it'd be worse, right? And
Right.
obviously, as a little kid, you don't want chaos.
Yeah.
And my brother was the one who was the antagonizer. It was kind of like the one who always got in trouble and all that stuff. So he took that role, and I took the other role. So I think that people pleaser, whatever label you want to put it, people pleaser, kind of like mediator, kind of just like supporter role and identity. I just continued on throughout most of my life, honestly. And I think I made a lot of decisions when it came to it, a lot of important decisions based on what was better for other people or what I was supposed to do.
Right.
And that was very hard to unpack. I mean, it's still kind of in my programming to do that, but
Sure. Was your brother older or younger?
he was an older brother. He's, what is he, like, basically 2 years older than me.
Okay. Was it just the two of you?
It's just the two of us.
All
Hmm.
right.
Yeah.
Got you. How about your parents' work? What did they do when they came to America? for work?
So my dad was an engineer. He never went to college, and so he just I don't know how that happened, but ended up working for IBM, and then so that was the job that transferred him to the US, or he was able
Okay.
to transfer
Yeah.
smoothly. And my mom went to college for education, but she never fully became a teacher. Not entirely sure why, but she, had that educator kind of nurture, those characteristics.
Yeah.
So she worked in like preschools. I think she did odd jobs when we were younger, my brother and I, as more as a stay-at-home mom. But once we got older, she like started doing full-time work, which usually was around like daycare, childcare, and preschool centers and stuff like that. So yeah.
Got you. Did you get to experience your grandparents very much as a child?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I the short answer is not really.
Okay.
So because we moved to the US when I was pretty young, I only had limited exposure to my dad's father.
Yeah.
And my dad's mother, she was an orphan, but she passed in a car accident when my father was 14.
Oh man.
It was a very traumatic moment for my father, and so I
Sure.
never knew her.
Yeah.
And then my grandfather remarried, and so I had a little bit of a relationship with my step grandmother, but again, it was limited because we moved.
Yeah.
And then for my mom's family, my mom's father, um, so my mom's mom passed when I was 2, I believe.
Okay.
So I didn't really know her. And then my mom's father, he stuck around for a while, but it was kind of like one of those like, oh, we'll see them at Christmas every once in a while, Thanksgiving. So it wasn't like a very deeply connected relationship that I had with him. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, and that kind of goes for all of my extended family, all of
Okay.
my aunts and uncles and stuff. So it never like my idea of family was not like a big, happy, robust family, which I guess
Right. Sure.
many people have.
Yeah. It was a bit skewed for you from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you came to America and started off in elementary school,
Hmm.
were you kind of in that similar mindset as you were at home in terms of you wanted to just stay off to the side, not really be noticed a whole lot, kept quiet? Yeah, okay.
100%. And I think it was always like, offensive is the wrong word, but I was always like, don't draw attention to me. Like when people were like, hey, Emmy, you're Chinese, like, you're different. I was like, oh, don't, don't, you know, point me out as different. And so, yeah, it was very much I was determined to just be not invisible, but close to it, honestly.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
think that was the best case scenario for me.
Did you feel at that
Mhm.
point in time, even with all of the um, kind of chaos that you were experiencing, did you have a sense of um, sensitivity and knowing to things outside of the environment? Maybe feeling a little bit more than what your brother probably did.
What do you mean in the sense of like knowing that other realities existed or like
Yeah, a little bit. A sense of being able to feel the energy before it happened.
oh, that's an interesting question. I think because of my selected posturing and position in my family that I was committed to, um, again, this is like I don't where one begins, where does one end? Like, I don't know if it's like a genetic makeup thing or if it was like social conditioning, but I do feel like I have a very intuitive, or I've had a very intuitive like sense of how people are. Like,
Yeah.
and I feel like now that I'm older, I feel like I can claim that as a skill of mine. But I don't know if that was like ingrained in me or if it was like social conditioning that like I had to anticipate what my parents' moods were so then I could act in accordingly to like
Right.
offset energy, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think at the time that I would have, or even looking back, I don't think it was like necessarily like a fine-tuned. Yeah, I don't know if I would label it as like an energy thing or something, but I just like got really good at reading people to
Sure.
try to anticipate anything bad happening and me trying to prevent it as well.
Yeah.
Um, so I was always watching. Like I watched everybody. I watched because even in school, like I would just watch people because I'm like, what is the social norm right now? How am I supposed to be acting? So I had to like do my research and
Right.
okay, so that's I'm supposed to talk like this and sit like this and like when I walk in the room, I go to my spot and then like all of that I was like
For
tracking.
sure.
So yeah, I don't know if it's like a fight or flight mechanism, like safety mode, or if it is like a intuitive energy thing, or maybe both.
I think it is both, honestly, from
Mm,
my perspective.
mm,
And that was why I wanted to ask that question because I know from my own experience, I'm pretty introverted when it comes to having to engage in things.
mhm,
I'd rather sit back,
mhm,
watch, observe.
mhm.
I feel like I learn more that way.
Yeah.
And I could see within your story already just how that became something that you needed to figure out
Mhm,
so that you knew how to kind of protect yourself as
mhm.
well as not get into certain situations where it was extremely uh, pressurized, so
Yeah.
to speak, for you.
Yeah.
Were there any opportunities to make some friends that seemed like genuine friends versus recognizing your differences in elementary school?
So it took me a while to find a good friend. I don't remember my friends like in like year one or two, like kindergarten, first grade, second grade. Although I think in second grade, I had a friend who was kind of a troublemaker and she kind of like was like, "Ooh, let's run away from school." And she made me run away from school. And I got in
Uh,
trouble, and it was like the worst day ever because I was like, "This is terrible," and I was at the principal's office, and I felt horrible.
mm,
But it was like because like she had a really strong persuasion
yeah.
to her. So yeah, that was terrible. But I wouldn't say she was like yeah like an authentic, genuine friend. But I got a really good friend in when I switched schools. We eventually like moved to our new house in New York, and she was really quirky and cool and she like her and I were very kindred spirits in like being quirky and cool because I think that like deep down inside, I mean I'm quirky and cool now, but like I didn't know that I was quirky and cool and I
Mm,
wasn't supposed to be quirky and cool, you know, when I was little because again
yeah.
invisible. So I when I connected with my friend and became friends with her, she like brought that out of me. So it felt like she was a safe space and we could be explore being quirky and cool together. And we ended up staying friends for a really long time. So I'm grateful for her to like have had that um,
Okay.
like awakening, I guess, or stirring or whatever. And
Right.
yeah, she definitely was one of my first authentic friends. Yeah.
Gotcha. Did your parents put you into any extracurricular things in elementary school to keep you occupied?
Um, Elementary school, I think I started doing, I want to say this was more in like middle school.
Okay.
Um, or like late elementary, I think I started doing gymnastics. And I really loved that. For some reason, like my brother was doing like soccer, he's doing
Okay.
team sports, and I admired that, but I was like, I could never do a team sport because then you're like on display with your teammates, and it's like too much. It was too much pressure, right? So
Right.
like a solo sport like gymnastics felt comfortable for me, and I also
Okay.
had a really cool mentor who helped. He saw that I was really body oriented and good at that, so
Yeah.
he kind of took me under his wing and like tutored me, coached me a little bit more like intimately, like one on one versus in a class setting. And so that really like helped me develop my skills quickly. But with that, I also like, I only did gymnastics for a couple of years, I think, but it definitely created a really good foundation for, what I ended up doing now.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, gymnastics was it, and which then translated to cheerleading when I went to middle school. But I didn't really love like the performative, like rah rah, and like I didn't care for sports. Like sports wasn't something that I was ingrained with, as an immigrant, I guess we'll say.
Yeah.
Um, and but then that kind of built the foundation for dance when I started dancing in middle school. I moved to give you context. So I was living in New York, right? But then we moved right after my sixth grade year to Virginia because my father had a job transfer. And my mom was like, "Oh, they have a dance team at school. You should try out." And I was like, "No, no, that's different. I like, I don't want
Yeah.
to dance." Um, but she pushed me and encouraged me to try out, and I ended up making the team, which was like a surprise to me and also like validating because I just didn't know
Yeah.
could make it. And then that was basically the start of my relationship with dance, and I'm very grateful for that kind nudge that my mother, you know, did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How how was that move for you? Because first off, you've come from Japan to America,
Yeah.
then New York
Yeah.
to Virginia.
Hmm.
They're as close as they are, so to speak. They're definitely different
Yeah.
in terms of cultural,
Yeah.
uh, American
Yeah.
culture.
Yeah.
How is that for your psyche?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think the most devastating thing was like leaving my friend. So
Yeah.
like, I've had time because I think I started becoming besties with her fourth grade. So
Okay.
fourth through the sixth grade, we transitioned to middle school together. Ah, boys and movies and the
Right.
mall and all this cool things that you do in the 80s. And so like for me, I was like so devastated that I was leaving my friends. And I also had other friends that I developed as well. And so, yeah, that was the roughest thing. And then, yeah, actually moving to Virginia, yeah, it was. I think there was like little moments where I was like, "Oh, that's different than New York." I think there was like people were saying y'all, which was interesting. Like that doesn't happen
Yeah.
in movies. Not that we were in like the sticks or anything. We were just outside of DC, so we're still in like kind of a metro area.
Yeah.
It was different, and then again, like it was still like identity, came up into play, and me kind of trying to figure out where I fit in. But I really appreciated the dance team that I joined because all of a sudden I had like a place, boom, immediately, having going to a new school. Like if you don't have any anchor, you're just kind of floating and trying to figure it out. But at least I felt like I was a part of something immediately.
Yeah.
That really helped me. Um, but yeah, yeah.
Sure. For sure.
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. How about your brother? Did
Mm,
he, with him being a little bit of the rebel, as you explained earlier, did he ever look out for you with these moves as well? Kind of maybe knowing as the older one that this may be a little bit more difficult for my sister.
No. Short answer is no. I
Well, it's short and quick.
Yeah, I wish. I think I obviously, really looked up to my brother. I loved him so much. And I don't think I was like the annoying sister that was like inserting myself
Right,
to when
right,
he's out with his friends. Because for the most part, like when we were growing up, I didn't say this earlier, but like in Japan and early days in New York, like we were really close. Um,
okay,
because when my parents were arguing, it was like we retreated and we retreated together in our little fantastical world of Barbies. Like we used to play Barbies together and we would create like this whole like world of like that the Barbies existed in. And that was
yeah,
kind of our escape together. So
yeah,
we bonded with that. Or even like playing outside. We had a beautiful yard and a creek in the back and all this nature to play around in. So we bonded, because of that. I guess trauma bonded. Um, but yeah, as we got older, like I started having my own life, like with dance team and stuff. And then he was starting to like transition to high school. And so I think like socially, he was like, looking to spend time with people his age you
right,
know, and yeah, I think like also maybe this is just like pure conjecture, but like maybe he was just too overwhelmed with his own, responses and reactions to like my parents constantly fighting,
sure,
that he didn't have the capacity to like kind of care for me, or even like the foresight to be like, oh, my younger sister might need some help, because again, like my role was like the mediator, like, um, I was always trying to fix the situation.
right,
So if it was an argument between my parents and my brother, I was trying to like make sure everybody's okay. And so maybe he thought that I was okay because I was taking that role too. Um,
gotcha. All right, that makes sense.
yeah, but I don't know. And I will say also, like during our time in Virginia, because I think everybody was just getting older and more vocal. Um, like there was definitely a lot of fights that broke out between my brother and my parents, and my parents obviously between them two. And yeah, we had a couple instances. Actually, this was also in New York. Okay, I missed a whole bunch of stuff, but in amongst the chaos and conflict, there was multiple occasions where we moved out from our house, like my brother, my mom, and I, and we
Okay,
lived with my aunt for a bit because of the abuse. We've had restraining
gotcha.
orders on my father, and then we lived in battered women's shelters for a bit too. So there's memories of
Okay,
living in those places and also being confused. Like so,
yeah,
for example, when I lived with my aunt for a year, I went to a new school for that whole entire year of second grade, and again, identity. Like I'm just trying to like fit in, but I'm the new kid. And
right,
then every single like week, we had this counselor come in and talk, like pull my brother and I out of our classrooms to talk to us about our home life. And I was like, why am I being chosen to like
right,
be talked to and being pulled out of class? Like I just wanted to fit in and not be different. So
yeah,
it was like, made me think like, oh, I'm different, or like, oh, my family's different, or oh, there's something different, about my life.
right,
So yeah, it's just always like this conflict, I guess, of like trying to fit in, trying to be just smooth everything over, everything's fine, and I just want to be invisible and not seen. But this other pull of like, no, this is you're different, and that's okay.
right, right.
Yeah.
The playing with the Barbies, did you have Ken dolls at all too, or just all Barbies?
So they were actually Japanese Barbies that we
Oh,
purchased.
really?
And so they weren't like the traditional blonde hair, blue eyed, big boobies, you know, right? They were like actually very tiny, like, well, because in Japan everything's cute. So like they had like giant eyes, um,
Okay.
and like they were very petite. Both the boy and the girl had like giant big eyes, and they were called Jenny and Jeff dolls. So I
Okay.
Jenny and my brother had Jeff, and then like yeah, once we moved to America, we got like a couple of the other Barbies, but like Jenny and Jeff were our jam. We stuck
Right.
to
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Well, the reason I asked that was because I found it fascinating that your brother was even willing to engage
Yeah.
in playing with the dolls, to
Yeah.
for you guys to have that kind of bonding at
Yeah.
that point in time,
Yeah.
where he was willing to play with these dolls that most of the times boys aren't playing with dolls; they're playing with trucks or
Yeah.
digging in the dirt or all that kind of thing. Um,
Yeah.
but I think this is a key point to um, the first visuals of storytelling
Mm-hmm.
within your unique bond there
Mm.
of creating this whole different world with these little characters, and you guys are engaging in it as well to move yourself out of this other world.
Mm-hmm.
Seems to be spinning and doing these things that are really foreign and discomforting for me.
Yeah.
Also, you mentioned being able to go outside
Mm-hmm.
and play in nature.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys find that very soothing and enchanting, so to speak?
Yeah, I would definitely say that nature was an early part of my life. I mean, like, just culturally, like in Japan, like they're
Yeah,
always trying to be one with nature and like
right.
sustainability and like, even like the religious kind of connotations with Shintoism and Buddhism, like all of that's very grounded in that.
Yeah,
So I think like early days that influenced me and like um and my mom was also really she loved nature too. So whenever we moved to the burbs in New York and stuff, granted New York had lovely nature, but she always like took it upon herself to go like, all right, let's go to the park and let's go hiking. And so she like made effort to help us go or make us go outside more.
right.
Well, so I think all of that like showed me that it was normal and it was good. And I think I remember a distinct memory because I had my own, connection points with nature too. So like when in New York, when we were living in New York, there was a lot of trees, the creek, there's like a pond, like all of this was like at our disposal as young kids. And I remember climbing up a tree all the way, like as top as I could, like to the not to the tippy top, but like as far as I could go. And I
Yeah.
remember feeling so like protected and serene, like
Mm,
in the tree. I'm in the tree, sitting in the tree.
yeah.
And that was like a beautiful memory and a moment for me to be like, okay, like I'm okay. Like chaos is there in that house that I see, from here.
Yeah.
I felt very, connected and safe. So that I think that was a really powerful memory. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. That's very cool. I think that a lot of times too, as kids, we have uh, we have this sense of connection that
Mm-hmm.
we don't quite understand at that point in time,
Mm-hmm.
but we understand the feeling, of
Mm-hmm.
the safety of it, the feeling of okay, this is comfortable. That
Mm-hmm.
type of thing. I think it's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, as we always get older, those things start to fade out of our realms of perspective. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
when you guys did move to Virginia and you started in dance, um,
Mm-hmm.
with some of the issues that you had in New York with your dad having to have a restraining order, that kind of stuff, did did he come to a place where he was less volatile when you guys got to Virginia?
So Virginia was when like the restraining orders that I do remember were in Virginia. So
Okay.
it really like I want to say it just kept the same, or maybe I would maybe increase slightly the volatility, but that's also because my brother was now another agent in this whole equation. And
Mm,
beginning, hormones and high
right.
schooler, boy, aggression. So I think that conflict that was between my parents just was exacerbated because now there's this teenager, who's already reactive and like then it's causing more tension on my parents and yada yada yada. So there's just like a lot going on. Like high school was rough for the family dynamic in a different way, Uh,
Sure.
but also, this is also a huge element of my upbringing that I haven't talked about yet. But uh,
Okay.
as I was, experiencing a chaotic home life and moving from here to there, one of the things that really grounded me also was religion. So
Okay.
when we all lived with my aunt, so it was my brother, me, and my mom all lived with my aunt for that year that I went to a new school in Connecticut. My aunt like basically told us about God and Jesus and becoming born again and all that stuff. And
Okay.
so my mom was like bought in, gave her heart to Jesus and all that stuff. So we started going to church. So that was a whole nother experience too, where I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like, I don't really understand it. But then eventually, like, you become inundated and exposed to
Right.
it. Yeah. And like being little, again, maybe it was me just trying to people please or whatever. Or maybe it was a combination of me being intrigued by this like Jesus who is supposed to save me from everything icky and
Yeah.
unsafe, right? So I
Mhm.
was like, okay, I will ask Jesus into my heart and I will become a Christian. And so I decided, I don't know when I decided, but it was in elementary school. I want to say it was probably like, yeah, second or third grade, right? Kind of
Okay.
after we started going to church regularly. And then so that became also a huge point of contention when we did move back in with my father, because my father's like, what is this?
Right.
Christianity. I don't understand it. And I just remember, religion was kind of being weaponized between my parents as another tool
Ah,
to like
right.
each other. So yeah, my father was like, yeah, really just yeah. My mom would weaponize her beliefs on my father, and then my father had no other like thing to do except like retaliate. And so that was icky. But regardless, like I still found something in religion. Maybe it was like the community aspect, maybe it was the sensationalism of it that really captivated me. Because I started going to like we went to many different churches, so we were kind of the um, what is it, Pentecostal?
Non-denom.
Yeah,
Okay. Pentecostal.
yeah, kind of non-denominational, but Pentecostal, Baptist,
Yeah.
um, a whole mix of things.
Sure.
I went to a black church for a while too, so it's just like a lot of things.
Okay.
And and we always went to a church that had like a good worship session. And you know, when I was old enough, I started going to youth group, and so that community really anchored me when I was in high school because that was something that I really um, like. Those were my friends. No, I didn't really have high school friends. I had youth group friends,
Got you. Okay.
and I don't know if you know anything about Teen Mania Ministries. There's been some documentaries on those.
Slightly. I was raised in a Baptist family.
Okay. Yeah. That is.
So, and I was pulled out of public school
Oh wow.
uh, in my last of my third grade year, going into fourth grade, put into private Christian school.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
So I understand every
Oh,
synopsis of what you're talking about, how it
yeah.
is relatable, how that feels in terms of a quote unquote community feeling, a form of connection within the teen groups, those types of things. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. But it also like, and then maybe this resonates too, but it also like for me validated like being good. Like it gave me more instructions to how to be good and how to be
Right. Yeah.
on the path. Like,
Yeah.
okay, like I'm already trying to be good. So now I have more instructions to like live up to. Great.
Yeah.
And like almost like a manual of like this is success. You save yourself to marriage, you devote to God, you be clean, you tithe,
Yeah.
don't dance. um
Right. Right.
you do all these godly things and live for Jesus, and then you marry a godly man and you do it all over again with your godly children, and it was just like, oh
Mhm.
cool, that's what success means, so I will stick to it. So yeah, that was another big layer, but another big influence of my early upbringing that, I will say that like, yeah, the religious trauma I'm still processing, like how kind of messed up it was.
Yeah.
um, so like, long story short, I do not, I don't go to church. I'm not a Christian. I don't claim to be Christian. I'm very spiritual. But that does not look like a religion of any sort. So I don't, yeah, go to any like formalized convenings or anything like that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but I learned a lot from Christianity, and I'm, grateful for that experience.
Right. And was those friends that you made in that youth group, were they uh were they from your perspective
Mm.
kinder and comforting versus what you're experiencing at school? Or was it still a little bit of the same, just a different mindset in terms of what we're supposed to do versus what everybody else is doing?
That's interesting. Okay, so this is a layered. This is going in 20 different directions. So let me try to see if I can consolidate. So how I want to respond to this question is um, I think it's a combination of things in my brain where once I became a Christian, you're told to like be godly. So like, and also in the evangelical world, like you're like your mission is to convert other people, right? At the end of the
Sure.
day. So it's like us and them mentality, right? So you're like, you are godly and you need to hang out with godly people so you stay godly, but everybody else who isn't a Christian is not godly and you're going to be tainted by them, basically.
Yeah.
So like, I was like, oh, I have to also like just the people that I hang out with the most have to be Christians, basically.
Right. Right.
So I think like when I don't remember any outright mean kids in high school. I will say
Okay.
kind of bullied in elementary school for being Asian.
Yeah.
But that was like before I became a Christian. So yeah, in high school though, I think I just like clung to my youth group because I was like, I want to be godly and I want that. But I don't remember anybody mean to me in particular. But I also was like conditioned to be like, oh, anything that the kids are doing these days is evil,
Right.
them
Right.
against their parents and having house parties. Like, I don't do that. So I think it was me kind of ostracizing myself because I thought that I was supposed to, you know.
Yeah.
But I also feel like there was this narrative still inside of me of like, I'm different and I haven't quite found my people because if all my people are not at my high school, then I'm just like by myself at my high school. And so I think there was this narrative that I'm like, I'm different and like nobody, I can't hang out with anybody. So I
Yeah,
think nobody likes me or like, I can't relate to these people because they're not like me.
for sure.
I think it was something that I made up in my head maybe about me being so different than other people. I mean, maybe it was true, maybe it wasn't, but I do think that the Christian conditioning really kicked in for high school.
Yeah, what I'm seeing you describe is just multiple layers of difference
Yeah,
getting stacked on top of you.
yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Um, and that that alone is confusing. I know it was confusing for me as well because I always had this sense that I wasn't getting told the whole truth
Mm-hmm.
about everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I always had these question marks in my head. Yeah, we had to do these, follow these rules, do this, do that.
Mm-hmm.
And there was always questions like that doesn't sound quite right or quite finished as a full thought type thing. Um, so that's the way I experienced a lot of that.
Yeah.
When you got into that environment of those youth group and was having that again additional layer of difference put on you, were you
Mhm.
still able to do dance or did you kind of transition out of that for a period?
I was still dancing the whole time, which is so weird
Okay.
because, yeah, so basically I did dance team in middle school when I first moved, and I tried out for the team, I made it, so I kept going with it. And even through high school, I like committed to it. But there was still always this part of me that I was like, I'm different than the other girls on the team because I'm not like it was kind of a gray area. Dance in church is like,
Yeah,
dance
for sure.
church. So I was like having this conflict in my head where I'm like, I'm dancing at school in the secular world to secular music, right? And I'm like, but at church, I'm not supposed to do that. It's not really encouraged. So I was like, that, like what you were talking about, like, oh, this doesn't quite make sense. Like those questions definitely came up early where I was like, but I like dancing a lot. It makes me feel good. But like Christianity and religion's telling me that it's bad. I'm supposed to like beat my body and make it my slave, right? Like, that kind of mentality. And that, like, you know, you shouldn't, yeah, your body's like secondary to like your mission. Right?
Right.
You should ignore your body and like not revel in it and stuff. So I felt very conflicted and confused where I was like, I really like this thing, but I'm like, am I supposed to be doing this? Or like, is this allowed? Um, Yeah, but I did it. I did
Right.
it. I kept going.
Did the dance classes that you were taking, were they more towards contemporary dance or was it more towards ballet? What type did you start out with?
Yeah, so the dance team was technically like a drill team, which is kind of
Okay,
jazz,
yeah.
yeah, jazz based, but also a lot of like hand movements, and we did a lot of competition. So we were like training to look like each other and like have the right angles. Everybody has the right
Yeah.
angles.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like a different version of dance than like being a studio dancer raised on like ballet, tap, and jazz or something.
Right.
And that was the same for high school too. So that was, yeah, my foundation for dance, basically
Okay.
competition and choreography
Right.
technique. Um, but when I went to college, so college was when everything kind of like changed for me, like being out of my parents' home. I was away from the chaos. I had space to like think for myself a little bit, but also very much constantly wrestling with this like, am I doing the right thing? Is this good? Christianity was still, I like aspired to be Christian throughout college.
Okay.
Yeah, college is a whole new world, right? People are doing all the things. So I was like struggling with like trying to find like what was right for me. But in the dance realm, I didn't want to join the dance team at Purdue because it felt more like a cheerleader thing than a dance thing. And I wasn't into that. So I ended up joining a hip hop crew. And that like changed the trajectory of dance for me completely because, so full disclosure, like I love hip hop culture a lot. And that's actually what I did my research on in my MFA program. Um,
Okay.
but hip hop, when I got introduced to it, I was like, all of a sudden, with hip hop, it's not about choreography and like looking like everybody else. It's about the whole culture behind hip hop is, you know, originated as an art form for release and expression,
Right.
um, and healing. And so it was about your individual style, your story, what you wanted to release in a community with other people.
Yeah.
And so I had to like throw away the programming that I've had about like, oh, I have to like look like this and, look like everybody else and like perform. And it was more about, it opened up the whole idea that like dance could be used as something else. So that was like mind blowing. And it was like freestyle based, which means that you're not dancing set moves, you're just dancing whatever comes up organically.
Right.
And I remember freestyling for the first time in my audition for the club, for the crew. And I was so terrified because I was like, I only do choreography. Like, I don't just dance from my heart. Like, I don't even know what that means. I don't even know who
Right.
I am. So, how do I even tap into myself to be able to express anything? So, that was very humbling. That was a very humbling first experience. But ever since that point, I made the team and we danced and performed throughout campus and beyond. But after that, I was like, oh, this is where I want to keep like pursuing. This is what I want to keep pursuing, like hip hop, vocabulary, technique, culture, style, etc. So I kind of like dove deep with those street styles as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So with that,
Mhm.
how does biology come into the picture?
Oh gosh, like listening to my song, I'm like, what am I? Who am I? Like, what is
Oh,
okay,
believe me, I'm loving it so far. So that's all right.
hip hop, biology,
Yeah.
trail team. Oh my god. Yeah, so biology was basically a safety move, honestly.
Okay.
Because when 18-year-old Emmy, like everybody goes to college. That's what you do in America. So my dad was like, okay, well, if you're gonna go to school, you need to like think about a career that's wise and sustainable and you know hinting not explicitly but like make me proud kind of low key. It's a whole Asian
Yeah.
parent thing. So that was like unstated, but like, okay, I gotta choose something that's gonna make my dad like believe in me,
Right.
I'm proud. So in my like, you know, I think when you're a junior, senior, they have like career days and stuff like that at school to help kind of show what options there are. And um, I was like, okay, I think I mean, a doctor's extreme, but like, I think something that's adjacent to like being a doctor would be cool. So I chose dentistry and I was like, I'm going to be a dentist because that's like not a full blown doctor, but it's like has the credibility of a doctor,
Right.
but you're just working on the teeth. So it's like an aesthetic,
Yeah.
kind of thing too. Um, Low lift or whatever rationale I thought at the time. And I also like started um like shadowing my dentist and working at the office there. That was my first full-time or first part-time job as a high schooler. I was working at the dentist office. And I was like, okay, this is cool. I could get into this. Like I really liked the science behind it. Like
Okay.
didn't realize I really enjoyed that world.
Right.
Um, and then so yeah, I committed to that pathway where I was like, okay, you have to be able to be a dentist, you have to have a biology degree, that's the foundation, and then you go to dental school. So I committed to the bio degree. And surprisingly enough, even though I realized shortly after starting school, I was like, okay, I don't think I'm going to be a dentist, you know. Um, but I really enjoyed my classes and doing all the lab work and stuff. It's something about the structure of like the scientific method and the inquiry of it all. And like, granted, undergrad is not like super juicy. It's pretty bare bones, but I enjoyed it, so I stuck with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was the culture shift again going to Purdue? Because again, New York, East Coast,
Yeah.
completely melting pot.
Yeah.
Virginia, a
Yeah.
little bit different culturally in
Mm-hmm.
terms of sort of moving south, but on the coastal line there.
Yeah.
Purdue, Midwest,
Yeah. 100%.
completely different again.
Yeah. Corn all over. Corn fields all over the place. Yeah, because I would make the trip from Virginia to Indiana, like, at least twice a year to
Yeah.
school and stuff. So I was always like, wow, like America's so diverse because you're like literally, in the burbs or in a city, and then all of a sudden there's like Amish people and
Right. Yeah.
farms.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania is a really long state. So yeah, I think like when you go to a new place for school though, like you are in a little bubble. So I would say like Purdue was a very diverse school in the sense that we had a lot of international students. There's a lot of like
Okay.
Indian international students, and like in my hip hop crew in particular, I feel like we were all Asian, honestly.
Really?
Like Filipino. We had
Okay.
actually four Filipinos. It was me. There was an Indian dancer. There was one black girl. Then we had like two white white a girl and a boy, and so yeah, it was very diverse. So I didn't feel like I was like too different.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask that question. Did that group make
Hmm.
you feel more like you fit into something um, visually that
Yeah.
was relatable?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, the whole Asian identity, even now, I'm like, I don't know if I fully identify as Asian. I mean, I look that way, but I'm not like waving the flag as
Gotcha.
some do. Some do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Some really do. But yeah, even when I'm with other Asians, like I feel like very like, oh yay, like I am one of them. But there's this little voice inside that I'm like, I'm not fully like them. Because there's is definitely a very different experience being a halfie, as we say,
Hmm.
um, than being like a full blown this really.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's like a whole like subculture around like halfie kids and stuff like that. But it's another conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm more at home when I see diversity versus homogenous.
Right.
Everything the same. Hmm.
Sure. Within that group, were you tapping into the B-boy, B-girl cultural things as well?
So yeah, early days hip hop, like breakdancing is like the OG pillar of hip hop and stuff. What we did was kind of like I don't think we had any breakers on our team. We definitely did more choreography and freestyle. So
Okay.
like social party moves, like that branch of hip hop, which a lot of people don't like necessarily understand, but it was um kind of what's the word, what am I trying to say? Hip hop, or breaking adjacent, I guess you would say, but we weren't doing like power moves and all that stuff. But it was
Right.
definitely
Right.
grooves and vibes.
A little bit more up rock
Yeah,
style.
100% upright stuff. Yeah, because that's kind of like the trajectory that like dancing upright went.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Upright. Very good. I'm impressed, Rich.
Thank you. Thank you. I have I have a diverse palette uh,
Mm.
for creative things.
Oh, good. As you should, right? It's
Yeah, yeah.
life so
Um,
much more wonderful.
but oh, most definitely. Plus, too, I mean, when hip hop started hitting um, the airwaves, that changed everything.
My gosh, I know.
It opened up so much in terms of, whoa, this sounds different. This
Yes.
looks different.
Yes.
What is this all about? Where's
Yeah.
it coming from? Like, and why is it coming from
Yeah.
here? All of that. So I was like full fledged into, I want to know more. I want to hear more.
Yeah.
I need to know what this is all about.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And then you have movies like Break In and Beat
Mm-hmm.
Street that
Mm-hmm.
came out, and it's just like, oh my gosh, the clothes,
Mm-hmm.
they're doing, the attitudes,
Yes, that
all
it.
that type of stuff. So, from me as a creative, as an artist, somebody who loves fashion, I'm looking at that
Mhm.
as like, holy cow, what is this? I need to know everything that's going on here.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, hip hop really, like, once I started understanding more, like getting involved in it through the movement and the dance was great, right? Because then I could like embody it more than understand it. But then once I started putting on my analytical cap and like digging into it a bit more and researching and just like seeing how hip hop communities were around the world because I've traveled so much, I'm like,
Yes.
oh my God, this is like, there's so many layers that is so intriguing about hip hop culture. The fact that it started as a youth movement out
Yeah.
of aggression around these oppressive systems and contexts, and then like it's still around 50 years later is like phenomenal to me. And the fact that it is worldwide, so that like the the essence of hip hop and what it stands for relates across the board to people, no matter what
Yeah.
color, race, right? So it's just like that's amazing. And I just think that like with hip hop, for me personally, like I don't want to be that person that's like, oh, dance saved my life. But I would say that like it has, because of what it has it like fortified in me. Like if I danced the regular pathway of dance, like continuing jazz and whatever contemporary and stuff like that, I don't
Right.
think it would have been as impactful if I never was introduced to hip hop, because hip hop was truly about connecting with myself, understanding myself, my core, but also like, the whole narrative of overcoming oppression is basically kind of like what
Yeah.
I was experiencing. So like for
Sure.
me to cling to that, knowing my past and my trauma, it was like definitely what I needed. So like yeah, I definitely, there's like some special connection to hip hop that I will never release because I just think it's
For
so
sure.
phenomenal for so
Yeah.
many reasons. Yeah.
It is. It's culturally borderless
Yes. Yeah.
and ultimately accepting as well,
Hmm.
um, to a certain degree.
Yeah.
More so with dance than maybe lyricists or artists.
Yeah.
Um, it's a lot more open with dance,
Yes.
but also too what I'm seeing from your storyline as well is that experience of freedom and acceptance from an oppressive
Hmm.
home environment,
Hmm.
an oppressive religious environment as well. So it's fully fully opening up
Yeah.
that you're able to experience those things.
Yeah.
Um, going just going through and completing
Mhm.
a biology degree,
Yeah.
but yet again, walk into this is why it's so fascinating for me, and even more so a joy for me to have
Mm.
you on as a guest to be able to talk about these things. Having watched your episode with Maddox and Dwight on
Yeah,
For the Love of Creatives,
yeah,
we both had the pleasure of being guests on their podcast.
love them. They're so
Love them as well. Yes. Much love and appreciation for the
great.
connections I've made just from them.
Mm. It's
Yeah.
good to hear. Yeah.
But this line that you're walking, biology,
Mm-hmm.
dance,
Mm-hmm.
but also internally, you're walking a line between almost two worlds,
Mm-hmm.
your familial experience as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm.
How is it that you were able to stay determined and focused enough to get through the biology degree, all the while this other thing that is expressive, freedom embracing, and not as structurally confining?
Mm.
How did you manage to walk that?
Oh, that's I like this question because I don't think I've ever reflected on this before, but
Okay.
maybe this is true for a lot of creatives, but I do think well, maybe it's true for many humans, but I do think that we're drawn to balance, right? So like if you commit to one or the other fully, then it's like
Right. That's
yeah.
balance.
So maybe the the appeal of kind of holding these two worlds and walking that line was because it checked boxes in my head about structure. Okay, there's another pop that there's another thought. I'm gonna put a pin in that because I want to get back to it. But yeah, like at surface value, like science is rigorous, structured,
Yep.
detailed record keeping, data, blah, science, rules, laws, whatever. And
Yep.
then like, yeah, hip hop is like fucking whatever you want, like just express yourself, take up space, right?
Yep.
So like I maybe those two worlds appealed because those exist in me, you know. I like being I also have maybe this is all artists but we're a little bit of a rebel, right? So like for us to walk the line is something that we maybe subconsciously choose to do too because like no like for me I'm like you can't label me. I'm not a scientist fully.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
only a dancer. Like there isn't one label that defines me. So
Right.
it's also exciting to like find this play in this gray area because for me now that I know more, and this is the thought that popped in my head, but science is art to me. I think it's like has this facade of like rigidity and like structure. Not that that's not true, but I do think that you have to be a creative to be able to like access ideas that can push progress forward. You have to be innovative, right?
For sure.
Like it isn't a sense of artistry. Um, and I also think that, you know, to be very critical about things, like a lot of artists have that. And critical not in the sense of judgment, but like just like, have we thought about this? Have you looked at it this way? Like just offering another perspective is something that we're good at. And so even in science, there's that space to be like, I don't know about that. Because there's like research papers on research papers on research papers that are like just kind of regurgitating the same thing because
Yeah.
they're basically proving the one prior wrong or supporting it or at least pointing out that like, oh, maybe this project wasn't completely accurate because XYZ. So
Yeah.
there's this constant conversation of like somebody saying this is what I found and this must be the truth, but then someone's like, but wait a second, like
Right.
you thought about this, and then it's like shifting. So it's just like you're never really getting to a full complete fact because at the end of the day it's all contextual.
Right.
Contextual based on who's doing the research, How are they doing the research? Why are they doing the research? Because that implicit bias is there all the time, you
Yeah.
know. So like I I feel like, yeah, maybe it's not two different worlds. Maybe it's the same world. I don't know.
Right. Okay. And from that thought process as well,
Mm-hmm.
were you able to see God in biology?
Ooh, ooh, Rich. That is a rich question. Literally and figuratively. Um, so, oh gosh, I remember sitting in biology class. I don't even know which class it was because I had so many a day, but and like it was like a giant lecture. There's like 300 students in my class,
Yeah.
and I'm like, we're learning about evolution, and I'm like, I like felt the sweat, right? Where I'm
Yeah.
like, oh fuck, here we go. I'm like, and I remember like I think my reaction to it was kind of like, in Jesus' name, or something. Like, kind of like rebuking what I was
Yeah.
learning,
Yeah.
where I was
Yeah.
like, no, 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 this is not in alignment with my Christian beliefs. And so I was like, this is not true, this is not true. But listening, and I'm like, okay, okay, I see how logically that makes sense, and like, so I was like entertaining it in my logic brain, but inside I'm like, this is wrong, this is wrong. I shouldn't be inundated with this knowledge that's demonic or whatever.
Yeah.
So like those questions definitely came up. And then so I think like over time, as I dove deeper into biology throughout my 4 years, what kind of the stance that I took at the end of the day was more of like awe.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's like I still don't necessarily know if there is. Okay, so let me say, I don't think the Christian God exists. I think there's some sort of like, we use the word source and spirituality, right? There's like
Yeah.
something that's like kind of holding everything together, whether it be, benign or whatever labels we attach. I don't even think it has a label. Like, I don't think it should. If it's actually like the thing that we think it is, like, we can't fathom what it is. So it just exists, right? So whatever that
Hmm.
thing is, and if they had it they whatever had any sort of power in creating anything or designing anything and setting it into motion, like I think the vast array of um life and how it operates and how it's designed, we'll say, like it just like left me like, and like being able to study it, the complications, even within our own body, like,
Right.
oh, the body is like a universe that is still yet to be explored. Like, we're just
Yeah.
getting into now research around fascia, right? Which is like mind blowing to me, but it's so new. Like, and so all of this is just like, oh, there's got to be like more to life than just like it just like as you study it more, you're like, holy crap, like there's just so much more to it. So that means in my head, I'm like, there must be more to it than what we do every single day, too.
For
Right.
sure.
So it's
For
kind of,
sure.
I don't want to say like it points to God, right? But I think it just put me in a position where I'm like, okay, like life is not what I think it is. And like whatever I've been told and programmed to think it is, like that might not be the case.
Right.
And logic isn't always a thing in science, in nature.
Yeah. It's not.
We try to like, ooh, hold on to it.
For sure.
He proves it wrong. So yeah.
Yeah. I think the key word that came out of your mouth was design.
Mm,
The design that you see there uh, within scientific study, especially if you're looking at the structure of something,
mm-hmm,
the way that it's put together
mm-hmm.
and the way it forms. There's so many elements of design there. It's almost impossible to say, okay, we can just relegate this to a book,
Right.
right? And talking on the spiritual level,
Mm-hmm.
If we're saying that it's coming from source or source energy, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how it's uh, developed and comes about, or a, a title that I like to give is
Mm-hmm.
the creator of all, right? The origin of all, the creator is the one who's painted this illustrious picture
Mm-hmm.
that is so many depths and layers to it
Mm-hmm.
that even if I'm in a conversation with somebody at my mom's church, I can use the word God, right? The
Mm-hmm.
name God
Mm-hmm.
to talk in that environment. Or
Right.
if it's just you and I can use source, I can use creator, I can use however many different names that are associated with that entity, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All still being that entity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those are the things where a lot of times in society we get tripped up by um, needing to put parameters
Yeah.
around things
Yeah.
because that allows us to be safe
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we're stuck in those parameters, we're safe. This is the bubble. We can stay in this and we're fine.
Yeah.
We can stay believing and walking this way and we'll be fine.
Yeah.
Problem is when people like you and I
Mm-hmm.
go outside of those
Mm-hmm.
boundaries and start experiencing
Mm-hmm.
everything else,
Mm-hmm.
it changes the whole dynamic of what that boundary was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's a thing that I try to encourage um, within this podcast is
Mm-hmm.
the willingness to be curious, the willingness to be open to other ideas or other experiences,
Mm-hmm.
because there's so many out there
Yeah.
that it allows you to find new things. It allows you to expand.
Mm-hmm.
Allows you to grow.
Mm-hmm.
It allows you to have more feel, more touch, more taste, more
Mm-hmm.
sound.
Mm-hmm.
All of the senses get activated, right?
Yeah.
And those are the things that stimulate me.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted this platform to be a space where people could talk like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could talk openly, even though we're sharing similar experiences in different parts of life.
Mm-hmm.
It all plays together as creatives,
Mm-hmm.
artists, that, these things just kind of just funnel back in different ways,
Mm-hmm.
different elements of the way that we express. With getting to the end of those 4 years of biology, what are you starting to think about going forward after graduation?
Uh, so I was still very much clinging to this idea that like there was a manual to life.
Yeah.
So like once I checked the box of getting an education, I was like, okay, I'm on my way to finding a godly man and also getting a great job. So I conveniently started dating somebody in the last year of my college who was a
Okay.
Christian. Check
Okay.
the box.
Right.
So I was like, winning. And we graduated at the same time. So we were like, oh, okay, we like each other, we're into this. So, like, what's next for us, And we were trying to like figure out what made sense. So, because we weren't ready to like break up for any reason, really. Um, and so the plan for me after I graduated was I wasn't going to stay in Indiana. So, because I didn't love it. Surprise, surprise.
Right.
Yeah. Well, so I went back to my parents' house, which was, I think they were living in Connecticut at the time. Um, and then so I went back there and my boyfriend at the time, he had a job in Pennsylvania. So we're like,
Okay.
oh, okay, this work. Like Connecticut's not too far from Pennsylvania, so we could long distance it for a bit.
Yeah.
Um, and so quickly though, right? After you're gone to college and you move back in with your parents, you're like, get me out of here. So I was like finding a way to get out of my parents' house immediately. So I was like, okay, I'll move to Pennsylvania then. So to be closer, because we were doing long distance for a bit. And so moved to Pennsylvania in Harrisburg, and I ended up finding a job working in an environmental lab. So I was like, great, I'm using my degree. I have a job. I have a boyfriend. What's next? Let's get
Right.
married. Let's get married because that's what you do, right? What's
Okay.
dating unless you're not going to get married? So we got married. And so this is when I was 22, 23, sorry. No, 20, 23, 23. I was 23. And so, yeah, we got married. It was great. I thought it was great. Everything was great. And then I realized, like, oh, wow, like, marriage is different than like what I expected. But also like, what is marriage? Because my parents didn't really have a healthy marriage. So, I'm just trying to
Yeah. Try
work.
to figure it out.
Yeah, I figure it out. And I also quickly realized that I was like, oh wow, I have a lot, like there's a lot of feelings coming up that I just don't know what is what. And so we ended up staying married for 4 years. And in that time frame, we also moved to Seattle. So we relocated to Seattle,
Okay.
and that was because he had a job at a startup out there. And for me, I was like, yeah, let's go. I never been to Seattle, and he was like, do you want to move? And I'm like, yep, let's go, let's do it. Like I just am always on any adventure. I'm like ready for it. So we moved out there, and we didn't have any like friends really. We had to like start from scratch. And so the, kind of it, initial conflicts that we had when we first got married were kind of,
Amplified.
yes, amplified when we moved to Seattle. We're both trying to figure out our lives, figure out our friends, our social network, community, all that stuff. So it was hard. And we ended up, yeah, splitting because yeah, there's a lot of different reasons, but it wasn't like an ugly split. It was pretty amicable. It basically came down to him being like, I don't know, like this isn't what I expected. Yeah, his parents were happily married for a long time,
Okay.
really healthy marriage. And from what I know, and you know, me, I'm like chaos and conflict. Um,
Right.
and then my own trauma that I wasn't dealing with. And not that he didn't have any trauma, like everybody has some
Yeah. Yeah.
trauma, but like together, I, taking responsibility over my piece and all of it was like, I think I put a lot on him to like help me, which he couldn't do. And not like nothing against him at all, but I think like I was like, I don't know what to do with everything coming up because I've never dealt with it. And
Right.
so I'm like spiraling and like not communicating to him what I needed. So he didn't know how to help me, but I couldn't understand what was going on in me. So I couldn't communicate. I never developed that skill of
Mm.
language. So it was a lot. But I think also looking back, it was like the best thing for me because I needed that awakening and I needed that reset to be able to like force myself to be with myself, basically. Because everything I was doing in my life up to that point was by the manual, by what was expected of me societally, religiously, familially, but
Right.
I thought was right and what I was supposed to do. And so
Okay.
all of a sudden I was in this world of like, what? Like I did it. I did everything to a T. It's like, why
Mm.
is it failing? And I was like confused and frustrated. So that's when I really started like questioning my Christianity. I was like slowly getting away from that. But that's also when I was just like dancing more because like I needed money to make money as a single female now. And that was always around. It was always around. So I started teaching and I yeah, was just like trying to find my way in this new city as well. So yeah, it was that was like definitely a day of reckoning for me, that getting divorced. And like, because I never would have imagined, I never in my head I was like, no, when you get married forever, you don't ever get divorced. That's not what God wants, you know.
Yeah.
So it, yeah, threw me for a loop.
And was the culture of the West Coast another shocker for you?
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes, Seattle no less. It's so progressive, it's so loosey goosey, you
Yeah.
know. What a an amazing city though. Like, I am so grateful to that city for being what it is, or what it was to me, to
Yeah.
like help nurture this really intense growth process that I was there. I was there for 5 years. So it
Okay.
really, really helped me. And I think there's also something super magical about the Pacific Northwest with its nature. Like, Seattle has everything: mountains, the ocean, the sound, evergreen forests, so
Yeah.
much lush nature. That was felt very ethereal and healing. And then yeah, just like the culture, like mindset wise, like they're like, yeah, we like, do everything progressive. Like,
Right.
Seattle's weird, Portland's weird, everybody's weird, and
Yeah.
it's welcome. So that was an invitation too, to like kind of open up more myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you think about doing therapy or finding somebody that you could talk to about what you're experiencing, what the things that were coming up that were leading up to this divorce? Did that come into play at all for you?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I think initially when I started having issues, I was seeing a therapist when we lived in Pennsylvania,
Okay.
and and like, she was helpful. Um she was the first person who like diagnosed me with PTSD, which I was like, that's not
Okay.
for me. Like, that's like what veterans have. Like, I don't.
Right. Right.
So, thank you, no thank you. But also, like, there was this judgment on me that I was like, I'm the one who has problems in the relationship, and like, not my husband. So like, I have to do all this extra, and like a little bit resentful, right? Like, around like,
Sure.
why am I going to therapy, and like, I'm the only one who's dealing with my shit. Um so there's a little bit of that going on too. And then when we relocated to Seattle, we were also having intimacy issues too. So we started seeing a like a sex therapist.
Okay.
Looking back, it was a really weird situation because he was like really old, like a sexy sex therapist. But I'm like,
Oh, that's always a
it
quandary, isn't
was weird,
it? Yeah.
and he smelled funny.
Oh, even worse. Holy cow.
I want to say his name was like Walter or something like that. It was like a very like, eh,
Yeah.
like a weird. Yeah. So like, anyways, like, so we went and saw him for a bit, whatever his name was, Walter, and it was like, I appreciated the exercises that he like took us through and all this stuff, and like helped us to like try to regain whatever. But yeah, it was just like, just things felt, I don't know.
Even more confusing.
What's that?
Was it even more confusing?
Yeah, because I still think, like, for me, I was like, I don't think like this is what we need to be focusing on. I think like I need to like do some work still.
Yeah.
So we ended up switching to like a formal therapist together, doing couples therapy sessions,
Okay.
and yeah, and it was like my husband's choice at the time, like who we saw. And so we went for a bit, but yeah, I guess, like, I don't know, it wasn't in the cards for us to stay together, right, to like work
Yeah.
through it. So, but yeah, therapy, and also like therapy was something that I did early on, like even with my family, but it
Okay.
wasn't regular, and it
Gotcha.
always was like a point of contention with my parents. Like, my dad never wanted to do therapy, but my mom was into it.
All right.
Like, I don't think I was ingrained that therapy was like, oh, what you automatically do when you have
Sure.
to. So, but it was cool to like have that experience of like, okay, no, yeah, we have problems. We're going to seek help. And that, it helped a little bit, I guess, in the long run. Just
For sure. For
talk
sure.
about stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Did did you find after that separation took place that the therapy started to be more understandable into what you were experiencing internally?
Understandable. What do you mean by that?
Like, did it, from what I'm getting from the conversation about therapy as a couple,
Mm-hmm.
it seemed to be a lot of things that maybe still had question marks
Yeah.
in place.
Yeah.
Where I'm trying to see is if once that separation took place and it's just you,
Yeah.
only having to deal with you and what you're feeling internally,
Yeah.
did some of the things start to seem like they made more sense in terms of how you could heal or progress in some of the stuff that you were uh, that was bubbling up for you at this point in time?
Um, I think like so basically after I got divorced, I didn't personally continue to have any therapy sessions myself,
Okay. Okay.
because I was kind of like, ugh, like he chose her, I'm not gonna go see
Right. Got
her.
you. All right.
And yeah, it was like me trying to cut ties. And then also like for me, I was like, oh, I gotta like make money now. And like for me, therapy wasn't a non-negotiable. It was,
Yeah.
luxury, if you will. So I
Right.
didn't pursue any therapy on my own, but having the experiences of going to therapy really helped create language around what I was feeling and kind of like helped me, normalize like just verbalizing things,
Sure. Yeah.
right? So it definitely like made an impact for sure. But I think like, oh, I'm trying to think of like when I actually started seeing a therapist again. Um, I don't think it was until maybe like right when my son was born.
Okay.
A
Okay.
while.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Did dance take place of that for you then?
Feel like it did, like
Okay.
somatically, right? Like that was like my thing. Like
Yeah.
that was like the thing throughout my whole life. That was purely Emi. Nobody else had any like
Right.
input on it. So when I was in the space of dance, like it was a conversation with myself, always figuring out how to move, being my own coach. It's like so much internal dialogue that, yeah, it felt like that was the most purest version of myself, I guess.
Mhm.
So like whenever I, got divorced and I started leaning into it more, I couldn't logically say that like, oh, I'm going to dance because it's my therapy. Like I wouldn't have
Right.
said that, but now I
Sure.
could with
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
collective. But yeah, I do think that dance probably filled that gap of like allowing me to process and connect with myself.
Yeah. You didn't necessarily have to do it verbally in a one-on-one session. You could
Yeah.
do it physically
Hmm.
by movement
Hmm.
and your own internal dialogue at that point.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. And as you're doing this, you're about 5 years into being out there. Um,
Hmm.
where does the thought come into of I'm going to go back to school or I'm going to leave Seattle?
Oh man. Yeah. Okay. So, um, leaving Seattle was a collaborative decision with my new boyfriend that I.
Okay.
So after we split, it was basically like, let's see here. I want to say like 1 year into Seattle, 1.5 years into Seattle. That was when I got divorced. So I spent the next couple years just like, yeah, leaning into dance more, trying to be my, independent self. Also, like, just, I feel like what I was supposed to experience in my early 20s was what I was trying to do now, because I was like finally releasing the religious like limitations, and I was like, I'm gonna date people because I
Yeah.
couldn't do it before, so I'm gonna do it now. I'm gonna have fun. I was like kind of like being in my 20s and living that up.
Yeah.
Um, and so I was like dating a bunch of people, like living the single life and all this stuff. And then so I met, so, and also I was working various jobs because I wanted to do dance, but obviously wasn't going to pay my bills
Right.
sustainably. So I had to do other things like working in restaurants. I worked in like a couple at a time. I think at one point I had like 4 jobs that I was doing. I was working for a startup. I was working in 2 restaurants, and I was dancing. So it was like
Okay.
hustle grind mode all the
Yeah.
time. But then I met who's my husband now. I met him when I was working one of the restaurants. And I really, there's like something really nurturing about him that I noticed, which is like unique in like a restaurant setting, because most restaurants, there's a lot of characters, right?
Yeah.
Um, but he stuck out, and we started kind of like seeing each other more, but I was adamant on being like, I'm not ready for a relationship. I'm actually going to go to the Peace Corps. So, I'm going to leave Seattle. So I hope you're
Okay.
okay with that, and I was like kind of pushing him away. It turns out that I couldn't go to the Peace Corps because of that one therapist who diagnosed me with PTSD early days, and that was like a black scarlet letter for it was like a scarlet letter for me on my psychological evaluation or whatever. So
Mm.
I'm allowed to go on the Peace Corps. Um, so um, I didn't end up going, but I was still kind of like, look, dude, like I'm my own little free little butterfly, so like don't you know. Um,
Don't try
but
to put me in a bubble.
yes, exactly. Take after me. But I kind of like calmed down a bit, and I just really enjoyed spending time with him, and him with me as well. And we had a lot of like synergy with like life goals, aspirations, desires, dreams, values. Um, and we were both kind of eager to travel. So that's like a big bonding point for us, because obviously I wanted to get out of Seattle, but
Yeah.
for me, it was like closing that chapter. It was important for me to leave, even though I loved Seattle so much.
Yeah.
Um, so we ended up working on boats. So we were
Okay.
working on cruise ships for a bit. There was a small cruise ship company in Seattle that did expeditions in mostly Alaska, but also Mexico. And they eventually expanded into like Panama, and, but they were all small vessels, like 80 guests maximum on their biggest ship, and like 20 guests maximum on their smallest vessel.
Oh, wow.
So, and there's like a few boats in between that range. But yeah, so we saw that as kind of like our opportunity to travel and to live like a boat life versus land life. And we agreed to do it as a couple. And so that was kind of our ticket out of Seattle.
Yeah.
Um, Very non-traditional lifestyle, because when we weren't on the boats and living and working on the boats, then we were traveling. Basically, we used our
Right.
funds to visit friends or whatever. And so that was kind of like the heyday. Right before I started working on the boats, I had this urge to, in my own healing process, I was like, I really need, like, what 18-year-old Emmy would have done was I would have gone to school for dance, but that was like not what would have been
Yeah.
pleasing to my father and right thing to do, not even a secure job, right? Blah, blah, blah. And so I had this idea that I was like, that's what I wanted to do. So I'm going to do it now. I'm going to do it now. So that's when I started researching like different programs to go back to school for dance full time. And as a 27-year-old, that was when I was like 28. I think I was 28 now then. There was a lot of programs in the US that didn't accept mature students in dance. So I was like, okay, I guess I have to look elsewhere. And I looked abroad. And that's when I found this program in London, which was basically a hip hop program. They called it Urban Styles. urban dance, which is problematic, of a term, and they have since changed it, thank God. But that was like the name of the program, is basically hip hop. And I was like, how cool is that? Like, there is no hip hop program in America, so I'm gonna go abroad
Right.
and study hip hop in higher education. That's crazy. So yeah, I in amongst the boat life, I got accepted, and I started school in what 2015,
Okay.
or 16, something like that. So yeah, another culture change, another move, and my boyfriend, husband, and now boyfriend at the time, he continued working on boats all throughout, even though I was in London. So
Okay. And was he still on the West Coast ports, basically?
yeah, it was rough. He also did a Hawaii itinerary, so he would come back to London, like however
Oh,
many time zones that is,
yes.
whenever he was off on break. So
Got you. All right.
a little
Being in London,
rough.
again, culture shock environment.
My God, yeah.
How are you navigating that in terms of mindset? And then also too, again, I'm sensing a scenario of where you might be feeling I don't fit in here quite like everybody else.
It's like, looking back, it's almost like I like subconsciously do that to myself. Like, I put myself
Yes.
in situations where like I have to wrestle with this concept of identity and fitting in community and finding my place and
Right.
finding my tribe. And I don't hate that. But do see this pattern of like choosing difficult things for myself. And maybe it's like a trauma response where I'm like, I'm used to the chaos and making order out of chaos. But anyways, wait, what was the original question? Right. I went up.
Yeah, I'll restate it, but
Yeah.
I want to touch on something real quick because
Yeah.
you what you said,
Yeah.
making order out of chaos.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's an important skill set
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
for an individual to have, whether it's derived from trauma
Mm-hmm.
or it's just derived from some structural reference point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it's very interesting when people have that ability
Yeah.
because there's an internal compass that moves you in that direction to be able to understand, okay, this is completely chaotic, so I need to help bring it into
Mm-hmm.
a place of harmonizing it a little bit, which is what you did as a little girl.
Yeah, I had to.
You
Yeah.
were trying
Right.
to always harmonize, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just wanted to point that out again.
Yeah.
That that is that's an asset that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Again, whether it was from the trauma or whether it's from just a structural scenario of even being in the sciences.
Yeah.
But having that as a skill set, and whether it's subconsciously or purposefully, either way, at this point, right?
Yeah.
It's going to direct in some form or fashion moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just want to highlight it so you may be able to look at it differently moving forward.
Mm-hmm. I
That
appreciate that.
it's an asset that you have. It's a way of being able to as well show other people
Mm-hmm.
that hey, there's a way to bring things in and allow some peace to sit in place.
Yeah.
So the question was,
Yes.
how did how did that mindset of being in London,
Mm-hmm.
another culturally different
Mm-hmm.
space of what it's like in the US,
Mm-hmm.
How did that sit with you mentally?
Um, yeah, maybe I loved London. Like I loved Seattle. I loved living in Seattle. I loved London. There's just something about it that just like jazzed me. But I think, yeah, initially, like, as with any new place, you like are fumbly and you're like, it's so awkward. I'm trying to figure things out. What are the social
Okay.
norms? I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But, I've developed enough resilience over time that I'm like, I'm not gonna like be ostracized. I'm not gonna like, I'm not gonna die.
Yeah.
My little monkey brains like trying to keep me safe, but I'm like, no, 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 we're fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's the initial like growth period of figuring it out and finding my people. But like, when you're in school, again, you have this like immediate connection to a community, a foundation that you can build from. And so like I was on a mission to like, I'm gonna like make the most of this situation. I am going to learn everything that I can. I'm going to like network with everybody. I wouldn't use that word, but like I'm gonna like go to all the dance classes and like
Yeah.
live up this experience. Um, and so for me, it was like a playground. Like I was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna eat and taste everything and like do it. And so it was more maybe my mindset or like the reality of like being in a new place, which could have been difficult and like, oh, I miss home or whatever home is, right? Um,
Yeah.
I I rather saw it as like, ooh, this is fun and also like inquiry. Like maybe the science got to me eventually where I'm like, I just love looking and analyzing things and reading things and observing, so like, maybe that also kicked in. Um, so yeah, I didn't that cultural shock was basically like a giant experiment, you know,
Okay.
and like
Yeah.
grow what how is this going to level me up in the direction that I want to go in and all that stuff. And it really did. Like London was a transformational city for me as well. The same with Seattle. So
Cool.
super grateful for that city.
Okay.
Yeah.
And with it being a hip hop
Hmm.
course,
Yeah.
essentially,
Yeah.
how did you see the differences of London versus what you experience in the States?
Yeah. Oh man, I'm just so grateful for that experience because, right? Like I kind of mentioned this before, like there's no hip hop program formally in the US, but
Right.
it's
Right.
in a place of hip hop. Like, what's wrong with us? You know, but I had this like ego going into it where I'm like, I'm American. So like hip hop's, part of my legacy or whatever. And I was like, y'all are doing it wrong, or like it's like a cousin to hip hop. Like, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when I was there and I saw like I don't want to say their version of hip hop because it's not that it's like inauthentic because it's in a different landmass, right?
Yeah.
Uh, it was just so opening, like eye opening to like see them translate the core essence of hip hop culture as I knew it into their context and also like how still very authentic and genuine and like original it felt to the roots. I was like, what? And so that's when like, yeah, I had like a little brain shift where I was like, oh, like hip hop is beyond is like there's so much more to it, right? That kind of sparked that conversation in my head. And so also another thing that I learned when I was over there was just how much the infrastructure and I guess philanthropy around arts and supporting artists and art enthusiast or whatever, right? Like that whole art culture on that side of the globe was just so much different, even economically, right, than the US.
Yes.
So that was like eye opening, in the sense that I was like, oh, like people actually create careers out of this, which like was not even an option for me. Like
Yeah.
it's a no, like a red stop sign, do not pass go, like dance.
Yeah.
This dance is not a career, but like here I was like, oh, there's an economy around it. There's like big national organizations that support dancers. Like what? Um,
Right.
hip hop theater. what? Like, I was just so, there's just so much that was illuminated to me, at like a whole new realm of possibilities around dance and what you could do with dance. Because I was just so limited in my little experience of dance in the US.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, which then like really, kind of like fast forwarding to present day, where now a lot of the work that I do is helping creatives, I mostly dancers because that's like my people, but like creatives
Yeah.
of any sort, like helping them understand their value. Because I've seen it, I've witnessed it in my own life, but I've also witnessed that there is a possibility of creating an economy, or a creative economy around creative entrepreneurs, right? Um,
Yeah.
and so, like, the work that I do now with helping people embody their value and then live in a entrepreneurial way was definitely informed by everything I learned in London and everything I was able to practice there. So yeah, super
Yeah.
transformational.
Was there any individuals there that recognized your individuality and kind of nurtured or mentored you in that phase?
Um, okay. Yes. um, so I mean, obviously I'm the American, so like I was the only American in the program. So by nature, I'm just the unique individual. And also the school that I went to, the urban practice program, I was the only like old student, right? At this point, I was like 29. All the other kids were like 18, fresh out of high school.
Yeah.
And so I was like immediately just on a different like thinking level, perspective, life stage.
Yeah.
I like acted very different, than everybody else. But oh man, I loved my friends at school. It was so fun. I had such a good group of friends, um, who I still connect with today. But so over time, so I only was in that program for 1 year,
Okay.
but like I developed relationships with my teachers and lecturers. Um, and again, like they also opened my eyes about like what the potential was with dance, and like the fact that they're like professors of hip hop. I was like, what? Uh,
Yeah.
but anyways, like my logic self kicked in, where I was like, okay, I don't need another bachelor's degree because this was a bachelor's program. So I had to like really think about, okay, if I'm like spending tons of money living in a really expensive city and spending money on this like program, I better like be smart and like actually go
Go.
up versus
Yeah.
just early. So then that's when I switched to Trinity Laban, which is completely different vibe. Trinity Laban is a conservatory of music and dance. They're actually in two different locations. Music wise, they have a very robust program around
Okay.
classically training musicians.
Yeah.
And then in the dance program, it's like contemporary and modern. So again, I'm put into this new environment where I'm basically the only hip hop dancer in my program. Again, here I go. Um, and I'm in this weird degree, which dance science as a field is very is an infant still. It's basically, the study of dance as all of the things that it encompasses culturally, socially, training, um, science wise, like anatomy, physiology, biomechanics, all that stuff,
Right.
um, psychologically. And so the degree itself is also very weird and different. And so, like, with that pathway, that gave me like more permission to like just really indulge in the uniqueness of myself, right? I'm like, okay, like I'm not going to do a research project like everybody else. A lot of people in that degree, or a lot of my cohort, like ended up doing a lot of like quantitative studies, like measuring things and data and like statistics. And like I was like, I'm going to go qualitative, and I'm going to research hip hop, dance battles, because I love dance battles. So I kind of went anthropological route, writing an ethnography. That was my thesis. Um, so yeah, I just like kept like I felt like my pathway in London was like I'm just going to keep doing whatever interests me, even though it might be odd and different and um, unique. Like, I'm just going to keep going for it. So, back to the mentor question. Um, the program lead of dance science at the time, she saw, I think she saw how like progressively minded I was and how much of a unicorn I was even within the cohort.
Okay.
Like, there was a point in my study where like I basically, okay, give you some context. Like, the program itself, the dance science program, was only 1 year as an MSc, so Masters of Science. But then if you wanted to do an MFA, you had to do another year. And I was at this point in at the end of the first year where I was like, do I want to extend to an MFA and get my MFA? Because the other American students were like, if you get an MFA, then you can actually go back and teach in higher education if you go back to America. And I was like, I don't know if I want to teach in higher education. So I don't think that's important. But then again, logic got to me and I was like, okay, maybe I should, just in case, right? Just have
Right.
a tool in my back pocket.
Yeah.
But then I was like really struggling because I was like missing my boyfriend, right? So we had obviously a long distance relationship, him working on boats in Hawaii or Alaska, and then coming for 2 to 3 weeks at a time, and then going back. And I was just like kind of fatigued at all of the new things that I had to manage,
Yeah.
life. Um, and like my the head of the program was like basically like gave me like a slap and was like, just figure it out. You just decide for yourself. Like, stop trying to figure like assess what everybody else thinks you should do.
Right.
It's like, go take a trip, go find nature, and go figure it out yourself. The answer will come, you know. And it was kind of like a firm like
Interesting. Yeah.
quit. And I was like, nobody's ever said that to me. Like, and so I really appreciated that like prompt to be like, you already know. So just decide from that and not from like all of the like me calculating all of
Yeah.
the things.
Interesting as well that they said go to nature
Yeah. Yeah. She's like, go take a trip.
and
Out of
figure it out
yeah, yeah,
because where I go in the story is all
yeah.
the way back to you and your brother
Oh yeah.
going out into nature,
Yeah, 100%.
to that space and time
Yeah.
where that was your enchantment space
Mhm.
where you could create your world. Now
Mhm.
you're getting this information again
Yeah.
in London to
Mhm.
go back out into nature,
Mhm.
to your enchantment space, and get
Mhm.
the answer.
Mhm.
Very fascinating from my perspective.
Yeah, no, it's true. But it's so like necessary to quiet all the noise that we're
Yeah, and it's even if we're looking at it culturally,
yeah.
right? So if we're looking at Japanese culture,
Mhm.
which is half of who you are,
Mhm.
there is a portion of that culture that respects
Mhm.
nature and how it is,
Mhm.
and being in that environment and understanding that that environment supports us
Mhm.
humans.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
um, and I think it can support healing in people
100%.
that is not always looked at as a first option. But I can guarantee you, if you take your shoes and socks off and
Yes.
go outside in the grass and
Yeah.
stand there for 15 minutes,
Yep.
something's about to change and
100%.
you're going to sense it.
Yeah.
Whereas you may keep your shoes on all day long and be running around with your mind going crazy,
Yeah.
trying to figure things out. But that simple process of getting connected to the earth
Mhm.
and allowing yourself to be in that space for 15 minutes
Mhm.
will dramatically change
Mhm.
what's going on internally.
Yeah.
And
100%.
it's not the first thing that comes out of a doctor's mouth to do when you go home. It's not
No.
the first thing that comes out of the therapist's mouth when you're about to go home.
Yeah. Or at least Western doctors.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, another fascinating
Hmm.
aspect of your life story that I'm drawing lines with.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Once you made the decision, I'm going to do this. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to finish it out like this.
Yeah.
Um, actually, I'm going to back up because I had a question.
Hmm.
When you start studying hip hop,
Yes.
what was one thing that blew your mind in that study of hip hop? Being in London.
Okay. Okay. So like actually in like my thesis or like
Yeah,
just in that culture.
in the thesis.
Okay. In the thesis, it was kind of stuff honestly that I already knew,
Okay.
like in the sense that like, yeah, kind of affirmed things that I kind of knew, but then like the whole experience of like labeling it and identifying it, like, it's kind of like goes back to like the embodied experience versus like the logical analysis of it, right? Like
Right.
once you name it and claim it, like it changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Labeling things. So I think like the experience of approaching something that I loved so much and I've done for so long, and then being like having a different approach to it, or like entering into like I've been to so many hip hop battles and like have been a part of that culture and like do the things that you do when you're in that environment and culture, but like to like take a step back and be like, oh, why is this happening, like what is happening, like what is expected to be done, because basically my thesis was around understanding the cultural norms and values of these like pop-up cultures that come up with every single hip-hop battle that gets hosted.
Yeah.
I went to like 3 different events. I also did a little um focus group as well to like hear from people in the culture actively contributing. And so for me, just that process also of like owning my shit, if you will, like creating my framework, creating my methods, rationalizing it, defending it in essence,
Yeah.
and then going through the process of collecting data, analyzing data, labeling shit. That whole process felt very empowering to me, where it
Mm,
like validated like any uniqueness that I felt before. Like
right.
like this process of creating a thesis. Granted, there's like a certain level of credibility when you're like, oh, I have a MFA, like that's cool. But
Yeah.
like that process, step by step, was so empowering. I felt very like, oh wow, like I did this and I can do this, and like, yeah, like whatever. Yeah, I don't know. There's just something about that process that felt very empowering. So when I was able to study something that I just loved so much, and like in turn I learned more about it by labeling it, and then also like contributing to the growing work and knowledge base that is supporting this community, felt really fulfilling to me.
Yeah.
um so yeah, it wasn't that like I learned anything new about hip hop culture, but it was just another opportunity for me to engage more deeply with this thing that I loved and like be validated in that approach, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. Absolutely makes sense. And also too, for me, it correlates to you being in biology,
Mm-hmm.
having to do that work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
So then, all right, let's move back to the first question of what was it? What was the mindset of finishing this out? What are you going to do from here?
So like after I did everything with my master's, oh
Yeah.
boy. So the last year of my master's, that was when I got pregnant.
Okay.
So that was another adjustment.
Yeah.
I also produced my first event. And then granted, I produced like small scale events when I was in Seattle, like mostly fundraisers and stuff around dance performances and stuff. But this one was unique in the sense that it was like Open Your Mind. It was a community slash event that originated in Russia, and the founders like moved to the Netherlands, and so they hosted these like every year. And so my partner, who I met in the original program that I was in, the hip hop program, she like graduated a year that I think 2 years after I left or something like that. But anyways, we remained friends, and we were like, "Ooh, let's put on this event together." So we like worked closely with the founder to like put on a version to have in London.
Okay.
And so this was like me being super entrepreneurial and scrappy, and putting on this event that already had like, if you will, international acclaim, or at least in Europe, and putting an edition in London. And so all the while I'm like finishing my thesis, I'm also like producing this event and organizing it and being with my pregnant body. So it was like a lot, but again, it was very empowering. I was like, I can do this. I can fucking do this, you know?
Yeah.
So that again, like in that direction of me feeling super empowered, super strong, super able, but also practicing like what I felt like I needed to do to like embody me like really owning my uniqueness, my artistry, if you will, and like being on this path of like, oh, like I'm going to keep continuing to create my life the way that I want to do it versus being, you know,
Told.
yeah, told or
Yeah.
following the manual or whatever. So everything I did that last year really like set the stage for me being like, all right, anything is possible after I graduate. I'm going to make it happen. Even if I was pregnant, I was like, I don't even know what being a mom means, but I can make it happen. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe a little over ambitious, but it was a really, really good year for me.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did you get the opportunity to go back to Japan after this took place or prior to this taking place?
No, so I didn't go back to Japan until this summer, actually. I was
Oh,
in
really?
Japan for like 20 years. I went in 2005. So it's been, yeah, Japan was kind of like not around for
Right.
me. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
So, how do you get from London to Texas?
Oh boy. Well, okay. This was a curveball for everybody.
Okay.
COVID, right? I graduated 2019, November 2019. And my, pregnant self was like, I think the best thing to do is just to go back to the States because it's just complicated. And I didn't have enough energy or capacity to be like, I'm going to extend my visa and apply to a new artist visa and blah, 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 do all the things that I needed to do to stay in London. So if I wasn't pregnant, I probably would have stayed in London, honestly. But I
Okay.
was like, let's just go back to the States. And so we moved back to the States, and we're living in, we eventually got married. That also happened.
Okay.
And so my husband's family is all from Texas, or at least that's where they all are now. He was born and raised in Texas. And so we lived with, his mom briefly while we like figured out where we were going to land.
Okay.
We chose New Orleans because my husband got a job working on boats in the Gulf. So he continued boat life, but we in our heads were like, oh, we're gonna stay in New Orleans for a bit. Like this is where we're gonna like create our life and our community.
Yeah.
But COVID happened, right? So my son was born March 2020. And yeah, that was when everything shut
Wow. That was the,
down.
yeah.
So it was like me being a new mom, me being fresh off of like having this beautiful experience of like anything is possible and I can create it. Um, And so like me feeling a little bit stunted about everything paused in the world, but also paused in my life as a new parent. And then my husband lost his job. And I was like, oh God, what do we do? So we ended up moving in with my parents who were living in North Dakota at the time. We were there for about 9 months. And that was when I also started therapy again.
Yeah,
For many reasons. But
for sure.
um, we also ended up moving out of North Dakota because there just wasn't anything happening there and it didn't feel stimulating and fulfilling. So we
Hmm.
moved back to Texas because we at least knew we had family we could count on with our son. So, yeah, now we're here in Texas and we've been here since 2000, what is it, 21?
Okay.
So, yeah, Texas is different too. Very different.
Yeah, you've jumped
Yep.
to many different locations,
Hmm.
even just within the US,
Yeah.
that have completely different cultures in each spot.
Yeah.
Um, Doing that even during COVID,
Hmm.
um, I imagine North Dakota was a bit more isolating
Yeah, for sure.
environmentally,
Yeah.
um, versus Texas
Hmm.
during COVID was a little bit more less restrictive, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, but being there and looking at dance again as
Hmm.
something that you needed to step back into,
Hmm.
what was the what was the thought process of where you were at in that community in terms of, okay, I can do this to make this difference that I want to with dance within this community? What was the thought process that and the maybe the initial spark of the idea?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I think it started in North Dakota. Um, the spark did, at
Okay.
least. Actually, no. I think it started in New Orleans because I was still kind of coming off my high from being abroad and being super activated. Um, and but I think I needed guidance. I didn't know. It felt like very amorphous. Like what am I doing? Like I'm so excited and I want to create something and I want to help artists and I like slowly like going through this process of like what is it that I actually want to do, versus just like doing everything and also um what is the essence of the work that I'm trying to create for myself, impact wise, all that stuff. And so I called upon a coach that I met in London, and we were meeting like virtually through COVID, basically. Um, and so that kind of kicked me into like entrepreneur mode, digital entrepreneur mode.
Hmm.
Started kind of seeing another coach. Granted, this was in Texas at this point. So I think like getting that kind of support and education was helping me now like own the fact that I'm an entrepreneur in all of this. I don't think artists really think about themselves as entrepreneurs.
No.
No, yeah, yeah. Let's be real.
No. Yeah.
I believe that all artists are entrepreneurs. Now I can claim that really confidently, but I never would have put those words together before.
Right.
And also now entrepreneurship is like a buzzword, which is a different conversation. But
Yeah.
um, I think it's relevant to the times because we need innovation and we need more heart centered initiatives and businesses and all that stuff. Uh,
Yes.
yeah, right. But yeah, the spark in me was the fans were flamed because of the intentional decisions for me to seek support and seek my own like bespoke kind of educational route to train my mind that I'm an entrepreneur, so I have to act like it and I have to like create a structured business plan, model, whatever. If I'm going to actually do this and make it a business. And also wrestling with like, what is my business and when does my business start and I end kind of thing, which
Sure.
I don't know if that there's a clear answer to that, but um, yeah, just really developing a healthy mindset around the concept that I'm an entrepreneur at the end of the day. And that is its own sense of own form of artistry as well, you know? Um, and so like when I landed in Texas, like there was no economy around the arts in North Dakota, let's be real,
Right.
especially in COVID.
Right.
So like I needed to go to a place that had a little bit more action. So being in Dallas now, there's definitely an economy for the arts. There's philanthropy around the arts economy and stuff. Granted, it's a little gatekeepy. It's a little old money, old oil money. You know, a lot of organizational basis, not a lot of grassroots orgs. There's
Yeah.
minimal grassroots orgs that really support independent artists and stuff like that, but it has a lot more happening. And so now I am finding myself in a position where I'm, because what the work that I really want to do is around empowering artists to own their value and to show up as an entrepreneur and leader in essence, in their community and in the economy. And so I'm like really trying to find my allies in all of this now that I've like understand the landscape of the Dallas art scene. Who are the big players? Who are the people that think like me? How can I partner with them? Um, but all of that to say, like, you know, it's been a long process of getting to the point where I am, where now I feel like I can call myself a community leader, an advocate, and a thought leader, if you will, in
Yeah.
this space. And I had to do it by paying a lot of money to have my own education around it. I also, in addition to just like having a coach and paying for a really expensive coaching program because I thought I wanted to be a coach in the digital space. Um, I also bought this really expensive like real estate program. Like I got my real estate license, so that educationally was helpful for me to understand finance, which
Okay.
not in the artist toolkit.
Right.
So I had to like really bespoke my way to fortifying myself as an entrepreneur. Um, but it was all good. You know, it's like really helped me be grounded and have a strong foundation now moving forward.
For sure. And has the teaching aspects of what you've been doing, has that helped support the structuring of this business mindset of what you're doing?
Teaching has definitely helped me create structure in the sense that like I adjunct, so like it's still like what I do on the side, and I'm still trying to like do business as my main thing.
Yeah.
So it gives me structure my real life, right? But also it gives me credibility, like knowing that I'm people see me and I'm associated with organizations that are credible, right?
Yeah.
But also within teaching itself, like, you know, you create your own syllabus, you create your own curriculum, you create your own whatever you want. And I have so much flexibility in the dance department, which is really cool because then I'm like, okay, what is interesting to me? I'm going to teach that and I'm going to focus on that. And I'm not taught to like teach a specific program. Um, so yeah, it's everything keeps informing itself, it feels like. And
Okay. And have you gotten any feedback from your parents
oh
as of
my,
yet that are encouraging, that are proud words of what you've done and where you are now?
wow, that's a good question. I realized that I have a Zoom call at 3,
Okay.
by 3, but this is a really good question. So, okay, so I know that I referenced my kind of like high expectations that my father put on me, or at least I thought that he wanted that for me. And so, like, I made decisions accordingly as a young 18-year-old to do those, to fulfill those. And so in my head, it was always like, oh, I need to make my dad proud. I need to make my dad proud. But after I got divorced and shortly after that, where I was like, my life was basically a mess, right? Low key.
Yeah.
He said something to me to the extent of like, I just want you to be happy. And that was like the biggest release of that conversation, that sentiment, like is in me now. Like I feel like that released me from the expectations of my father, or like feeling like I need to do something for him. So my father's good. We're good. I feel great. I don't think he understands what I do, and that's fine. I don't
Yeah.
really care, and he's happy for me no matter what I do. My mom on the other side, my mom on the other hand, she's not critical of what I do. She doesn't understand what I do. And so there's like a part of me that wishes she understood what I do, because I feel like it would actually be a little healing for her. But again,
Sure.
you can't control people,
Yeah.
because I feel like the more that I learn about myself, the more I see how similar I am to my mother,
Mm.
the way that I see the world. Like, I believe she's an artist, super neurodivergent, super ADHD. I'm
Oh,
very similar to her.
okay.
I think that she got stuck in her trauma and she never found her way out of it. And she's still very programmed. And, she's in her 70s now. She's not going to
Yeah.
change. Um, but I just, there's like this desire. I guess there's still like a little part of little Emmy that's like, please just see that what I'm doing is good.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. I feel like I wish I was like my dad, where I like could release it, but
Hmm.
there's still parts of me where I'm like, I'll tell her about something that I'm doing that's really exciting, like, oh, like I'm setting some choreography on the college kids or whatever. And then like next week she's like, what are you doing again or whatever. Like, it's as if like I said it and it's like
Gone. Yeah.
fun. And like, it doesn't bother me with my dad, but for some reason it bothers me with her that she doesn't even remember what I do. Um, so yeah, there's still a little point of contention there, I guess, with my mom. And
Got you. Well,
yeah,
I can say this. I definitely am glad that those words from your dad
yeah,
about that side of the familial
yeah,
connection release.
yeah,
And I think that's amazing that you're able to get to that space. And to close out today, one of
yes.
the things that I always want to remind the audience at the end of
Mhm.
each one of these conversations is to listen to your heart,
Yeah,
but also be kind to your mind.
yeah, 100%, 100%. And also move your body, because it has internal wisdom that you need to tap into.